Hi there, Joy again from Adventures in Menopause. We're doing yet another video about pumpkin carving. If you haven't been to my site, I'm working on a blog today. It's my sick day. I'm not feeling very well. So I'm pumpkin carving in my jammies to keep me busy. And I'm working on a blog post about pumpkin carving basics. So this is the second or third video that I've done. And I'm doing this one because I want to show you that you don't have to always use the stem as the lid. And this is why. You can think outside the pumpkin. Okay, I have already gutted this guy, and the one thing I've discovered about doing it this way is it did take more work to gut it. That's because I got a very short pumpkin. If I had a deeper pumpkin, I could make a larger hole. And the reason I'm doing this one a little different is that I found one with a cool stem. So if you can see that, to me that stem looks like a really crooked old nose. And the fact that he's got all these really deep grooves looks like wrinkles. So I decided that this pumpkin is going to be carved on his side. So the face is going to be here. Around this, I'm going to use, this is the nose. I have a mouth drawn on the bottom. I haven't decided if he's going to be male or female, he or she. So at some point I will probably put either an old mop with straggly hair or a hat of some sort on this pumpkin. What I did, because he's round obviously, is I cut a little flat piece off the bottom so that he will sit flat on the floor. And I made this the lid, so the top part had to be the lid, and I've cut a hole and emptied him out. And like I said, because it's not very deep, the hole had to be fairly small. I didn't want it to interfere with my design. So this is the size of the hole. I had to get my hand in and clean it out. So it was more work. I have still cut a notch out of my pumpkin lid to let the seam out so that this doesn't fall in. But it's on quite a dramatic angle, so it should be okay. And it's going to be under a hat of some sort or something. So we see how this works. In the meantime, like I said, I've cut out eyeballs. I've got some kind of mean-looking eyebrows and a mouth. I'll bring that a little closer so you can see it. I find it dark in here, so I have an extra light on, but I'm not sure if that's making it harder to see the design or not. Do it with and without. My house is really dark, and it's kind of a dark, gray, yucky day out there, so all in all, it's not good for lighting videos. So because my pieces are smallish, I'll probably do most of my carving with the little gadget that comes in the kit. As I said before, the only reason I buy the kit usually is this gadget, because it's very handy to get in tight places and around curves, because it's so narrow. So I love it. If I didn't have this, I'd probably be using, this is a nice sharp blade, but it's not serrated. Serrated works better. So find an old cheapy knife from in your cupboard or your drawer, and you can use that. You can also use, this is a grapefruit knife, and it's not big serrations, it's very fine serrations, but there's lots of them, so you can saw away quite well with one of these babies. This is usually what I use for this kind of thing. So I'm going to start, where am I going to start? I think I'm going to start with the eyeballs just because they're the nicest, biggest pieces. So because, like I said, this isn't pointy on top in my other video, it's actually a rounded top. It doesn't really poke through as well as it could, and I don't want to break it by trying to force it. So I use something else to poke a hole in, just to get started. And once I've got a hole in there, I just pop it in and saw. Now I'm thinking too that because I've got this on its side, the pieces I cut out will probably be thicker. I'm quite close to the stem. I know it's usually fairly thick there. So we shall see. It might be a little harder to get them out because of the fact that I couldn't clean the strings off the inside as well. Basically, I could barely fit my hand in the hole, so it was a little more difficult. Next time I decide to make a sideways pumpkin, I will pick one that's nice and tall, so I have more space to play with. So I've made my eyeballs. They're basically flat on the bottom with a half moon shape, and then another half moon shape on the bottom for the center of the eye. Like I said, I almost always have a center in my eye because something about just a basic round eyeball with no iris in it bothers me. Okay, so I've cut all the way around, and if I've done a good job, it should come out. But easiest way I've found to pull them out is to poke the corn cob holder into the piece and then wiggle and pull. And it usually will pop right out. If I was doing something 3D with this, I would need to trim the goo off, but I'm not. Today it's just an eyeball. And there are some stringies, so I'm just going to go back in. If you can see this. I'm just going to go back in and kind of saw my way around the hole, just to get rid of any strings that are hanging there. See if I can scrape them away. I really don't like having this many strings left in it when I'm done emptying it. Like I said, I'm having a really hard time emptying it because the handhold is so small. Okay. So I'm not going to worry about getting the pieces out until after because I put away my goop bag. But there's my first eyeball. So I think that's going to look kind of cool. Now they're not centered, they're a little lopsided. I don't care because this is an old person pumpkin. And as we age, we get kind of crooked and wrinkled and stuff, so I wasn't worried about centering anything. I may end up with one eyeball bigger than the other two, probably by the looks of it, but I'm okay with that too. It's going to give my old pumpkin person character. So this is a fairly tight curve, and as you see, you could just basically saw up and down and turn as you go. That's why this tool is so fabulous. There is a bigger one, like so. If I'm doing a really large piece, when I get to the bottom of the mouth where it's a big long stretch, I probably use that one just because the bigger serrated bits goes faster. It takes a while with the little guy that I'm using, as you can see. Now this does look like it has wrinkles because of the lines. Okay, there's my second eyeball. Popped right out. I do have some strings though, so. Anyway, as I was saying, it does look like it's wrinkled because of the lines and things that are in it, but I want it to be really well wrinkled, so I've also got some little lines, some wrinkle lines beside the eyes that I'm going to cut out, and that's just basically taking out a sliver of pumpkin to do that. Doesn't really take much to make little line accents. So there's my second set of eyes, or my second eye for my set of eyes. There it is. I'm sure you can see some goo bits hanging down that I'll deal with later because I don't want to get all covered in goo. So now that we've got the hard part done, I'm going to do the eyebrows. And what I did is I drew them kind of up and then back down at an angle. I will poke a hole for both. Because I think that makes it look like he's a little bit, he or she, a little bit angry, a little bit grumpy. If you want a really, really angry eyebrow, you just do a straight up line like that. It usually ends up looking fairly annoyed. Old people tend to have bushier eyebrows than the rest of us. I'm sure I will have some soon. There we go. So there's a sliver. That is going to be an eyebrow. Just try to scrape the stuff away to make sure that enough light gets through it. And then the other one. I did this in red marker instead of black. I used to use black all the time because I had them handy, Sharpies and stuff. But these days I use a red one if I can, because if I don't actually manage to saw directly on the line and I have some marker left showing, the red isn't quite as glaringly obvious as chunks of black Sharpie all over your pumpkin. So this way, because I very seldom actually manage to follow exactly on my line, unless I'm doing something that's quite intricate and then I work harder at it. But for something like this, I'm not too worried about it. And this way, the red shows up a little bit less. You can't really use like a water-soluble marker because it gets all wet while you're doing this kind of thing and your lines will rub off. So if you do it with something that's not a permanent marker, halfway through your design you could lose part of your design. So now we have some eyebrows for a grumpy old person. And then I've got 3 radiating lines on each side for his or her. I keep saying his, maybe it should be a man. Wrinkles. Some extra wrinkles. And it's the same thing. I'm just basically doing 2 lines fairly close together that meet on each end and pulling out the sliver. The only thing you have to make sure, as I said before, is that you have enough of a gap to allow the light to shine through. That's why I test them with a little flameless candle. When you get done carving, always test it before Halloween night to make sure that you can actually see what you want to see in the dark. Because sometimes you have to go back in afterwards and just kind of widen the hole a bit to make something work. Okay, so I can see through all of those. I'm not sure about the middle one. We'll have to look at the middle one again later. And there are my, if you can see them, my wrinkle lines. So I'm going to do the same on this side. We don't have to do a nose, obviously, because this is our nose. And it's definitely crooked and wonky. So it does definitely go with the rest of his wonky, wrinkled old face. I do have a really long, kind of a downturned mouth for this one. I kind of started out thinking about it as a witch. But then I decided it really didn't need to be a witch, because if it was a witch, I'd probably have to go find a witch hat to put on it, and I don't have any handy. You'd think I would. My daughter used to be a witch every year. My middle daughter loves being a witch. The youngest one wanted to be a clown, so the first 2 or 3 years of her life she was different kinds of clowns, because she just loved clowns for some reason. I'm not sure how much of a slot I've got there, but when we test it we'll find out. Alright, so eyeballs with wrinkles and a big nose. So what's left is our mouth. And I'm going to lay it down to do this just because, oh, I'm bending my thing. Because it's really low on the pumpkin and I think it's going to be a little harder to do it without whacking my elbow on the table or something. So, like I said, this guy goes a little faster and it's got 2 different size tines on it. I don't know if you'd call those tines or... but that one's farther apart, this one is finer. So for large areas, farther apart goes faster. So whichever direction you're sawing towards, put the big serrated part towards it. And as you see, you can go fairly fast. Something, I wasn't sure. So, because I have teeth, I'm going to saw up to the edge of the tooth, and then I'm going to go back to the little guy. Basically, I'm just going to go straight down to the bottom, so that that piece can now fall out. Just makes life a little easier. And I'm going to go across the bottom of my teeth. I like to do it kind of in sections. If you can do long straight lines, that's the easiest way to go. So when you can find a way to do a long straight line, notice what I do. I'm going straight across the bottom edge of all the teeth and over to the other side. So now all my teeth are the same length. Now you could make them all raggedy and stuff, but I think they look pretty uneven as it is. So that's good enough for me. And now I have a starting point to go back up to my top line. And I'm going to do a series of straight lines along the edge of each tooth. And then all I have to do is join them together. So that's a tooth, that's a space, that's a tooth. And that's the other side of the tooth. One more tooth to go. Okay, so I have sawed along these upright lines, and I'm going to go back to my corner. Wait, tooth, space, tooth, space, tooth, space, tooth. Oh, I haven't done this one yet. Yeah, I missed one. Okay. So now I just have to do the spaces between the tooth, and when you join them up, each piece should just pop right in. So there's one tooth. Since they're all hanging by strings, like I said, I'm a little annoyed about the fact that I couldn't make a big enough hole to get my strings out of there. So I might have to go back and forth a few times and then go inside and scrape to get my last little bit of string off of each piece so that they'll come out properly. Then again, maybe having stringy icky things hanging in the back of the teeth makes it look cool. So all my pieces are inside. I'm going to pull them out. Now, there's one time that you want to maybe save some of this glue and seeds and stuff like that is there's kind of a fad going where there's puking pumpkins. And basically you would make a mouth, a big open mouth, and then you would put a pile of seeds and things and goo and strings coming out of the mouth onto your step or lawn or whatever. Okay. So, like I said, I may have to do some more scraping on the inside to get it to look really nice and crisp. But otherwise, my little old person pumpkin's done. He's got teeth. He's got a wonky old nose and wrinkles, eyebrows. I think it's going to turn out really cool. So I'm going to test it. I'm just going to get rid of my pieces first. I have a bag. I usually put a garbage bag underneath the pumpkin while I'm working. But since I've been doing so many pumpkins, my bag's half full already. And I think it would be hard to see the design if I have a half full bag sitting in front of me. So that's why I'm making a mess on my counter. Okay, so here is my little flameless candle for testing. Put my lid on it. Turn off some lights. See what we get. It is daylight. It's not going to show up as well as it would at night. But hopefully it gives us an idea. So we'll see if the camera can pick up the light from that. I'm a little closer than you. I could probably see a little better. So I think that my eyebrows are fairly good. My eyes are fairly good. I have to widen out my wrinkles a little bit. I can see them, but they're not standing out as well as I'd like. So I will probably do that a bit more. But in the meantime, again, the point of this whole video was to show you that you don't always have to think of your pumpkin as this is the pumpkin and this is the top. If you happen to be looking at your pumpkin and you look down and say, oh, that's got a really cool looking nose, or at first I thought I was going to make it a beak. I thought about making this a bird. But then I decided I wanted a face because he was wrinkly looking. Anyways, you don't have to necessarily keep that as the top of your pumpkin. It can be whichever side or way you want your pumpkin to be. All you need to have is a lid. Right? So, until next time, when I probably do more today, because it's going to be a long day. Until next time, happy pumpkin carving. Have some fun, get creative, and if you have any really cool ones that you finish and you're really proud of them, send them back to me and I'll post them on the website, because I think that would be a lot of fun to see what everybody comes up with. Have a good day. Bye-bye.